Hey guys, I'm PokeKellz, and I'm a co-host of the Dex on the National Dex channel. And I'm here today to talk about my favorite video game of all time, and that video game is Pokémon Snap. But before I get into Snap, I need to give just a little bit of background information on kind of how exactly it became my favorite video game. And that was all the way back in 1998. When I was younger, I really loved playing video games, but I never had a video game system of my own. I would always go over to my neighbor's house, and for one day, it wasn't a special day. It wasn't like, a birthday or anything. My mom came home with a Game Boy, and it was the old Game Boy, the Game Boy Brick, the big gray one, and with the Game Boy, she brought home two games. One was Kirby's Dream Land, and one was Pokemon Red version. And she bought them to kind of, as the intent in her buying them was to have my siblings and I share the games, which didn't work out because, as you know, Pokemon only has one save file. And me being the middle child who was both bossy and the best at the video games, I quickly took Red version for myself, and I immediately fell in love with it. I would play it well into the night. I would stay up with a flashlight on my Game Boy so that I could just keep playing with these amazing creatures called Pokemon. And I just fell in love with the series, and it just kind of meant the world to me. Because I was a kid, I was 8 years old at the time, because I was, so young and so imaginative, Pokemon quickly occupied my mind. Like, when I wasn't playing the game, I would imagine that Pokemon were, running alongside me when I was at school, like they were, up in the rafters, a bird Pokemon up in the rafters when I was in class. I just imagined that they were all around me, and it made me feel happy, and it made me feel like I had some sort of friend out there that only I could really know and understand. I don't know if that sounds weird, but it really spoke to me as a series. So a little bit after the games came out, the Nintendo 64 came out, and I convinced my mom to get me one. And we would rent games from Blockbuster, like pretty much exclusively. I had Mario 64 of my own, and then pretty much everything else, she wouldn't buy it until I was able to try it and she could watch it and make sure that it was approved for children. So I remember that's how I got into Banjo-Kazooie, and that's how I got into a lot of the games that I did end up playing when I was a little kid. But I remember that when Pokemon Stadium came out, I thought it was the coolest thing. And I was like, what? 3D models of Pokemon? It's like they're just a little bit closer to being real. And I thought it was a great game. But it was still all about the battling. And then my time was still preoccupied with like imagining like my best friend Scyther and my best friend Vaporeon. Like, why not? They're just all around me all the time. And then one day I came into the Blockbuster with my mom to like see what game I wanted to rent, and Pokemon Snap was there. And I looked at it and I was like, what could this be? And quickly realizing that it was a game where you just take pictures of Pokemon, I was like, this is the one. And I brought it home, and right away it was like all of my dreams and all of like my imaginative playing of pretend with where Pokemon were all around me in the world. It was like that was it. I was going through a world and there were just Pokemon all around me, and all I had to do was watch them and take pictures of them and see how they interacted with the world around them. And it amazed me. I played the game so much that I can to this day still recite from memory like how to get every Pokemon in every pose, what song on the Pokeflute will gain you the highest score. And it just totally captured me completely. Beyond that, at the time, I knew in my heart that one day I was going to work with animals, and I do believe that a lot of the reason that I wanted to do that was because they were pretty close to Pokemon. And I've always loved dogs, and I've always loved any sort of animal that like we interact with closely, like any domesticated animal. And I think a lot of playing of Pokemon and the bonds of friendship that the game promotes really like made me develop a love for real world animals. I became the kind of girl that like in class there would be a beetle on the floor and I'd be like, don't squish it, let me take it outside. And in that way I was kind of a hero to my classmates because I would take all the bugs out. But beyond that, when I started to grow up and I became like more of an adult, and I thought I knew what I wanted to do, I was going to college. I was going to college for drama, but for some reason I was really unhappy, and I didn't really understand why until one day I realized it was because I wasn't working with animals like I'd always wanted to do, and so I quit. I quit my drama major and I started working as a nurse for animals, a nurse joy, maybe you would want to call it. But it really gave me a sense of purpose and a sense of like I was doing something really good, like being able to be around all these amazing creatures that live on this world and help them when maybe they couldn't help themselves. But I mean, bringing that back around to Pokemon Snap, I really think that it just kind of taught me that like there are creatures out there that can do amazing things, and they are so different from us, but at the same time they're so much the same, I guess. But whenever I go back to Pokemon Snap, I feel the same joy. I feel the same joy playing Pokemon Snap as I do when I like see an animal in the real world that like I see my dog and he speaks when I ask him to, and that is crazy to me. And it's just the bond that we can share with something that is not another human is something kind of incredible and something kind of great. And I really think that Pokemon embodies that idea quite a lot. To this day, like I said, I can play Pokemon Snap on repeat as many times as possible. There was one point where I would be going through the guidebook and I'd be trying to improve upon the guidebook because I knew that I could get a higher score than the guidebook, and I did quite a few times, just by playing around and saying like, no, I bet if I did the third song on the Poke Flute, that the Snorlax would do something better. Like, he steps a little bit closer to the camera and I can get a little bit better of a size shot. And I would try to like perfect my pictures and go back and say, well, Sandshrew was like he was popping out, but like, it looks kind of weird. So maybe I can get him like right as the frame is about to change and it'll look like a really good picture, but it'll also get the bonus for him popping out of the sand. Like I got so into it that I could take a picture of the exact frame when I knew a Pokemon was going to do a certain action. It kind of feels great to know something that well. It kind of feels like home when you know something so well that you could, even do it in your sleep. I'm going through a Let's Play of Pokemon Snap on my own channel, and it is a delight. It makes me so happy to be able to share my love of something so important to me with everyone out there, and maybe convince them to have a love for it too. In my mind, I've also created a somewhat of a sequel to the game, because like I said, I've got a pretty active imagination. I never stopped like imagining that Pokemon were around me. Sometimes I still do it now at 25 years old. Like, why not? If you can't imagine a beautiful, wonderful world that's perfect, then like, what are you doing, right? But I hope that one day Pokemon Snap can have a sequel, and I secretly hope that one day they're gonna ask me to help make it, because it's all up here, guys. It's all in my brain. All they gotta do is program it. But yeah, I mean, I digress. It's something that makes me happy, and it's something that is so close to how I really feel about the world that I just feel an extreme attachment to it.